Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Vanderwall, as you well know, farming is one of the most difficult jobs or professions in the United States. And but to make matters difficult, farmers now have to wade through regulation after regulation, many of which are being made by people who were not elected. To me, it's a challenge. People talk about democracy being under threat. There's nothing that threatens democracy more than to have unelected people who represent no one making decisions that affect everyone. And so this includes initiatives and orders from this administration on climate change, which has hurt our farming and transportation sectors across the country. This includes the methane emission regulations, and then the fuel emission standards that are going to impact all of our vehicles. So my question is, do you think that the average farmer is more worried about climate change, or are they more worried about staying, keeping their business going?
Yeah, thank you, sir, for that question. There's no question that the average farmer is more focused on remaining profitable and staying in business. We're in a position right now, just starting a few months ago, where for corn and soybeans anyway, we're under cost of production. And it comes down to inflation. It comes down to all the costs that we've seen, fertilizer, crop production chemicals, all those things. And when we have more requirements put on us by the federal government, it just increases expenses. Labor is one really good example as well. The increased labor that comes along with the H-2A program that a lot of people are forced to use, in fruits and vegetables especially, just adds costs. And so certainly farmers are very insulted by the laser focus on climate change and what to do about it. And they're sitting here thinking, you know, I'm just trying to hold my business together and hopefully my family will have a chance to run it someday.
Are you familiar with the new EPA proposed rule on meat processing facilities?
I need to ask more questions.
They basically have a new rule related to the waste that's produced and requiring treatment on site of water for these facilities. In response to that, what I find, Mr. Vanderwall, is that Congress ends up playing whack-a-mole with all the most of the laws that are filed are trying to address the executive orders that have been implemented by someone who was not elected. People that are basically trying to act as though they are the legislative branch. One of the bills in response that I've sponsored is called the Beef Act, which would reverse that EPA proposed rule on the meat processing facilities. And another one is this new requirement that cattle ranchers have to get a prescription for the antibiotics to keep sometimes their calves alive, which is why I sponsored, along with Representative Burkeen, the Stop Government Overreach in Ranching Act. These are just two of the most ridiculous new executive orders that are written by people that have no idea what it's like to be a farmer. Would you agree?
I do agree, and your example of the VFDs for using antibiotics is right on target. We resisted that back when they put it in place, and of course it did go into effect. It's a hassle, though, for a producer to have to call their vet, and typically the vet just writes up the prescription, or the VFD, veterinary feed directive, and you get it done. If there is a benefit to it, it deepens the relationship between producers and their veterinarians, but we think there would have been a more simple way to do it.
So, and how is the agriculture, the farming community impacted by the these new transportation regulations?
Well, anything that makes it more difficult and adds burdensome regulations is a very big concern to us. I think I've said before, with these grant programs or whatever the situation is, we need to let our local governments have more autonomy to respond to the local needs that are out there.
And not to step over you, but I've just a few seconds left, and I want to get your comment on, do you believe that the federal government could use its dollars more wisely? I know that, for example, we are spending $7.5 billion to fund electric vehicle charging stations that I think would not benefit rural Missouri whatsoever.
Well, I think you're correct in that, and consumers are telling us what their thoughts are about that through the lack of market for electric vehicles. People just aren't interested in buying them, and I think we need to find a happy medium someplace in there.
Thank you.